But however, when I read Wired, the book written by, what's his name, Woodward, about Belushi, I read like 5 pages of Wired, and I went, oh my God, they framed Nixon. like all of a sudden I went, oh my God, if this is what he writes about my friend that I've known, for half of my adult life, which is completely inaccurate, talking to like the people of the outer circle getting the story, what the hell could they have done to Nixon? I just felt like if he did this to my friend like this, and I acknowledge I only read 5 pages, but the 5 pages I read, made me want to set fire to the whole thing.
Jamie, see if you can
Those
find
5 pages, I went, if he did this to Belushi, what he did to Nixon is probably soiled for me too. I can't take it.
The speaker opens by recounting his reaction after reading a few pages of Bob Woodward's book about John Belushi. He is visibly upset by the way Woodward frames Belushi, portraying his longtime friend in an inaccurate and skewed manner. This opening segment sets an emotionally charged tone, inviting viewers to consider the potential misrepresentations at the heart of the discussion.
And I know you say, well, you could have 2 sources and everything like that, but the 2 sources that he had, if he had them for the Wired book, were so far outside the inner circle that it was criminal, cruel. And the reasoning for it is that the most famous person ever to come from Wheaton, Illinois, is John Belushi. The second most famous person to come from Wheaton, Illinois, is Harold Red Grange, the football player. And the third most famous person to come from Wheaton, Illinois, is Bob Woodward.
Really? Wow.
So there's all my controversy for today. That's all I got. I got a bone about that one. I got a bone for Woodward ever since I read those 5
once
pages.
you see it from something that you know.
Here the critique deepens as the speaker challenges Woodward's reliance on sources from the outer circle. He argues that such a distant perspective results in a narrative that is not only unbalanced, but almost cruel. The intensity in his tone conveys a personal betrayal and hints at a broader cultural misinterpretation, questioning the credibility behind the book's portrayal of Belushi.
Once you see propaganda or bullshit from someone that you know, and you see a distorted perception, it really opens your eyes to the fact that a lot of the things you read are horseshit.
I mean, Belushi made whole people's careers possible. He made people's careers possible. Mine would be one of them. All the people that he dragged to New York. He went to New York first. He broke into New York. He took over New York, and he dragged all of us from the second city, to New York. He's the one that got everyone there. And there are musicians, and lots of them, that will thank Belushi for the creation of, the revivification of the blues, and for the fact that there's a House of Blues chain that blues players can go and play, and there are all these venues that wouldn't have existed without Belushi.
Yeah.
He did a lot of things for people. There was a lot of people that slept on John Belushi's couch. There's a lot of people that stayed.
The conversation shifts to celebrating John Belushi's undeniable legacy. The speaker highlights Belushi's transformative impact on entertainment, citing how he helped launch careers and revolutionize the cultural scene in New York. His admiration is palpable as he emphasizes Belushi's magnetic stage presence and the enduring influence he had on music and comedy.
For free at his house until they made it in New York, and I'm one. And any he died in an unfortunate way. But the man, when he was still the best stage actor I ever saw. He was absolutely magnetic. You couldn't take your eyes off him. And he did a lot of wonderful things for each other. He was a short hitter. Guy could only drink 4 beers and he was drunk. So the idea that he died of an overdose is hilarious. That's what my brother said. He said, "What, do you have 4 beers?" He's John's dead. "What, do you have 4 beers?" Because he was not really much of a drinker, but
it was drugs, right?
It was drugs.
Speedball?
Yeah. It was a speedball.
Yeah. What was
and it was this I believe, to my knowledge, it was like the first speedball he ever had.
Jesus Christ. So what was the Woodward interpretation? What was his version?
Oh, it was just he was talking to people like, wait a minute, you're telling me that guy over there, that guy who's that far away from the center of things, is telling you the facts about John Belushi? That guy way the fuck over there?
In this segment, the speaker critiques the detached narrative style used by Woodward. By questioning the source's credibility, pointing out that the book's sources were removed from those who truly knew Belushi, the speaker paints a picture of an exploitative narrative. His arguments suggest that the intimate truth of Belushi's life is lost in favor of a sensationalist account.
Is telling you who John Belushi is? It's like, wait a minute.
And he didn't contact any of you guys?
Oh, I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I would have nothing to do with it. I didn't like and it smelled funny from day one, you know, and you know, Judy wanted people to talk. I was like, sorry, I know where this is going, and it wasn't exactly where I thought it was going. Even worse than where I thought it was going. Even just the title alone, you know, it was cold.
So it's just exploitation of his death.
You know, you'd have to hold me down and burn my feet to make me read more of it. So I couldn't say that it's exploitation of his death. But, you know, guys that write books come up with, you know, Bob Woodward's got a new title every 45 minutes for another book, you know. So, you know.
The review continues with a focus on the exploitation of Belushi's legacy. The speaker condemns the apparent use of his death as a tool for sensationalism, lamenting the lack of balance and respect in the narrative. His language becomes even more biting as he points out how such portrayals cheapen the memory of an icon who did so much for his peers in the arts.
You know,
it's a very disturbing thing.
It's just tough, you know. It's like, and when, like, so what do you know? That's he really, in those 5 pages I read, he tore down my friend with a, you know, I didn't see any. There was no compensation. There was no balance in the 5 I read, and maybe I was unlucky, but certainly, if that much was, to me, was disturbingly ugly and like irresponsible to report, and then I can't imagine that I got so that I only found 5.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I'm sure Woodward does other things. I've seen him on TV, and he can be smart and everything, but, you know, he's going to have to answer for that sometime for something, you know, I think.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like you don't get a free ride not with my friend.
No.
The speaker's frustration reaches a peak as he questions Woodward's overall approach. Despite recognizing Woodward's media savvy, he stresses that one cannot overlook the damage done by such one-dimensional reporting. This segment underlines his belief that a deeper, more respectful exploration of Belushi's life is necessary, one that honors his contributions rather than exploiting his legacy.
Well, you can get away with things a lot more back then when he wrote that book as well. You know, it's there's no other venues for people to express themselves. Back then, it was like he writes the book, he does the interviews for the book, this is the narrative.
Yeah, and Bob Woodward, like one of the squarest guys in the world, gets to tell the story of what it was like to live in New York City in the 70s.
Yeah.
Really? In the late 70s and 80s? Like he knew what the story was?
In the final moments, the speaker wraps up his critique with reflective and pointed observations. He reiterates his dismay over the reduction of a complex life into a simplistic, marketable narrative. The segment serves as a final call for accountability and a reminder of the real human cost behind the distorted stories, leaving the audience with a lasting impression of both personal and cultural injustice.